other live stream because otherwise I'm like hearing what we're saying when we're saying it. Paige, Happy New Year. It's great to see you.
Happy New Year too. I'm so excited. This year is going to be great.
I think so too. There's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon for us, and we're just getting started. So it's gonna,
Yeah, just getting started.
yeah, it's gonna be very cool. So you had we kind of go back and forth before we go live or before we schedule these polarity labs, thinking about some stuff that we want to talk about from the perspective of polarity. And you had a great idea about about how common it is in relationships for couples to find themselves in a position of coexisting where there's there may be still a lot of love for each other. It may be a relationship where it feels like love has diminished in a way and people maybe aren't sure they should still be together, but they're staying because of financial kind of
Ed,
requirements,
Ed,
obligation to the kids, and what we wanted to kind of talk about was that
right.
in these scenarios, when we find ourselves stagnated like that, it's often because we've lost polarity in the dynamic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Right. So it could be, I call it asset management. It could be family support or religion. So, your families are connected. It could be religion. It could be kids. It could even be friends. It could be that you're in the same friend network. And so those are the things that are holding the relationship together, but the actual relationship is what we call roommates. We've used this term a lot, where you're just living parallel lives, but the ignited passion is missing and you're just kind of co coexisting together.
Yeah, and I think we've all probably been in some relationship dynamics at times that have fallen into this trap. I think one thing too that can happen there is partners start feeling almost like they're caretaking for each other, but it's almost like this parental, oh, I'm having to mother you and father you and help, and it's again, we lose that charge, we lose that attraction and that passion. And really it's kind of because both people are sort of stuck in this neutral position, or they're swinging masculine, feminine back and forth, but not intentional and syncing it up in a way, right?
That intentionality is maybe not even recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, so I've been in relationships like this, and then I've worked with, couples in my practice who were, doing couples therapy or different things. And a lot of times the recommendations are like, we need to schedule date nights and we need to learn new communication tactics and ways that we speak to each other. Um, but I think, from my perspective, that may often be missing this polarity charge, right?
Yeah, I think too, you just take each other for granted. It becomes so, this person's in my life, they're here, and then you just take that person for granted because it's like it just is, it's stable, it seems secure. But there can be undercurrents where it's not as secure as you might think, especially for men. I think they're usually like really thrown aback or taken aback when, over 70% of marriages fail in divorce and they didn't even know anything was wrong, and the woman's like, oh, I was checked out for quite a long time, and men are like just coming to the party.
Mm.
So I think there's a deep sense also of just taking one another for granted, or getting to know, like you hear that expression, choosing your partner every day.
Mm.
So choosing that person, and then in choosing that person, there's a rediscovery process. Like if you take them for granted, you might not realize that there's a depth within them that, times change, interests change, life situations, circumstances change people. And so, in those big pivotal moments, especially like for menopause for women, a lot of partnerships fail when women go into their menopausal years because they're like entering this new terrain. And And so I think there's this sense of choosing your partner every single day.
Yeah.
And and if you do that, then there's this real conscious effort to be mindful of the other's experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are often, again, I think people who want to stay in a relationship for whatever various reasons, but then they can start to sort of either forget or they downplay the significance of what makes a relationship feel alive for the participants and what makes both people feeling, that they can feel like, oh, I'm happy because I am being seen and it is being understood what matters to me and what's important to me. And I see my partner showing up in a way that works for me and then it works for us, right? Versus like digging in the heels and being like, well, the problem's my partner. They need to change what they're doing. I'm good where I'm at. I don't want to change.
Well, I think that's the most common scenario.
Right.
Like I'm good. It's them, it's the other person. Um, but I found as I've been doing this work that the more I shift, then it's like if I love the person I want to be, like if I show them the love that I want to receive,
Mhm.
then I'm capable of going outside of myself. Like if I show up thinking that they're supposed to provide for me some experience that they're supposed to give me, they should just know. I mean, this is again very common in women. The male should just know what I want, they should just know what I need. If I show up in that energy, then I'm not coming fully forward in my true aliveness, which you were talking about. It's my Shakti, it's my prana. It's like if I show up with that level of affection and affinity for the other person, then that's going to bring polarity immediately because I'm showing them what I want to receive. I'm giving them what I want to have mirrored back to me.
Yeah.
And if I'm just expecting them to know what I need and what I want and how to behave, then I'm not showing in my full aliveness, my full affinity, and my full affection. And I'm just expecting something from them to extract some kind of energy that I should be circulating, like as I give it out, I mean, I can then receive it, I can circulate it. And that is that like real true tantra energy of like, projecting out the love that you have within, it's like if I come in my full aliveness and my full Shakti, my full feminine, then I'm radiant and I'm alive. And then that's something you can play off of.
Right.
But if I'm showing up, you need to do this for me. I expect this from you. This is how you're supposed to behave for me. Then that energy is not going to create the level of polarity of showing up in my full expression of love.
And could I like say, so what it sounds like to me, what you're saying is for women, and this is a question, right? For women, it's a matter of being able to shift and in some ways let down some of the guard, right? Some of the control to soften
Mhm.
towards their masculine partner, right?
Yeah, like I was in a conversation with a friend this morning, and she was talking about a sexual encounter with her partner and how they didn't show up in the way that she needed in the bedroom.
Mm,
And then instead of just coming from this place of curiosity with the partner, it was like, you're not doing what I need in order for me to soften. Like, in order for me to surrender, like, you're not executing this in a way that works for me.
right.
And I challenged her to say, well, if you're coming off like from that place of I need this or expect this or this is how you're supposed to behave or show up for me, it immediately puts, I believe, the masculine energy in a place of like shame. Because if they're expressing themselves in a way that they're unconscious of how the feminine's receiving it, it might be the way that they are expressing themselves energetically in that moment. It's not necessarily personal, but the feminine can often take that as like you're not behaving or acting or displaying it the way that I need to receive it. And
Is it safety? I mean, is it like,
it's totally, but like I think for the male, it actually doesn't create safety because from the moment I believe the feminine is in a place of any form of judgment, then you need to do this way, which is control.
that's directive, that's masculine.
Right. Instead of being like, um, I feel like, or I need softness. Like it's like just an expression of what the feminine desires. Again, it's like, you know, the safety for the feminine would be like, this is what creates safety for me. And the masculine, of course, wants to come in and do that. So if they're exhibiting a behavior that's their expression or their aliveness and sexuality, but I think a male, as soon as he feels questioned,
Judged.
then it's like, I mean, it's like like erectile D. It's like I think men go into performance a lot, and so
It's well, and it's losing again. It's your it's the it's the contra it's a contrary idea to say I want to feel safe and soften and be in this full expression of my feminine, but here's how we have to do it. Like those things are not congruent. You can't lead from a feminine, soft, open space, right? That's the masculine role in that dynamic.
yeah, and so I think in this
Let me say
situation,
one more thing real quick. I think there's a way the feminine can convey where they're
exactly,
at without having to demand what happens.
exactly. So she had a facial expression that he picked up on that
Mm,
she wasn't enjoying it, and he did pick up on it. And so if you go back to like John Wineland's work, like the feminine can just make a sound, she can make an expression, like she can embody what she's feeling, and the male will, I mean, ascertain from that information. So he did pick up on it. And I think in that moment, had she softened and just, expressed desire, like I keep learning again and again and again in my feminine expression that expressing my desire is the most powerful place to be. Um, because as soon as I make it about them, then I've already disconnected.
yeah.
And when I show up like truly in my desire, like I said, in my aliveness and my expression and my, just in my own embodied self, then I think the male is always mapping the experience too in a different way.
Well, that's the feminine, her facial expression is a communication, but I
Right,
think again, and maybe even more in these relationships that we're talking about that are tending to, at time be really in kind of a stagnant place and there's not a lot of flow and we're trying to build it up. And then all of a sudden the guys now self-reproach, oh, I just effed this up. I just ruined the experience. She's upset now. And he's collapsing out of
right.
out of his place.
That's what I think happened is there was like this like crescendo and then it like went into a collapse. And I think what I've experienced is just in whether it's in the bedroom or out of the bedroom, that if I just stay embodied in what I want to experience and I show up in that energy, then it does create a playing field.
Yeah.
It's like because I had a moment where I got into a strong feminine energy like a couple nights ago, and I felt this like wave of intense like emotion overtake me, and it was really heavy, and it was like an old pattern,
Mm.
an old pattern. And instead of like projecting that energy back out to my partner, I was like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna sit with where this is coming from. Like, I'm gonna sit into the feeling of where is this, where is this happening? Like, why is this happening? Why is this feeling like not in so much in my head, but like a really inquiry of like feeling the feeling so it can tell me what's going on.
Yes.
And when I did it, I was very aware that it was an old pattern. And had I gone into my old self, I would have projected that out onto the
Mm,
person
yeah.
as if they had done something wrong, as
Right.
if they had to go in and do something different in order for me to feel better. But I was wise enough from past experiences to be like, okay, I know this is really charged, and I'm going to go home and I'm just going to like feel where this charge is coming from. And ultimately, it wasn't anything that they had to come in and fix or change or behave differently. But had I shown up in my old version of myself, if I had shown up in the way that you need to do these X, Y, and Z to make me feel better, then I'm sure I would have completely shot down the polarity.
Right.
And in fact, what was happening is I was going into a depolarization place that was like, if I had continued down that route, I would have completely depolarized the energy. I was able to come center and just be like, there's a charge here, and I'm going to be really curious about that. And then I was able to like really center myself and understand what I needed to change for me in order for me to feel better. So I could come back with the polarity. And I never projected anything out to my partner whatsoever. Because I realized once I went into my full emotional body that it had a charge from a different time and place, and I didn't have to show up expecting X, Y, and Z from my partner.
Right. How long do you think it took you to cultivate this level of self-awareness, Like, I mean,
I think it took me deep pain of doing it wrong
mm,
and knowing that I was supposed to do it differently because I'd studied this, through Tantra. So it was like, oh, I know there's an alternative. And I kept like playing the game and coming up either with success or not.
yeah.
And then like eventually I was like, oh, I've done it both ways. And it never goes well when I expect, demand, or project onto my partner that they're supposed to do X, Y, and Z for me. It never goes well.
Mm,
Um, but from that perspective, that highly emotional charged energy typically happens for the feminine when she hasn't been able to like really embrace her own waves of like, okay, like I'll give you another example. I was also able to look at my menstrual cycle and identify that post ovulation around day 15 or 16 is usually a place where I get kind of pissed off. Like I get a little like, like a little frustrated and like a little like, like, shh. So also just like being able to like really continue to dial in my cycles of energy and continually seeing how my waves of energy move throughout a 28-day cycle. I can pinpoint when that wave is going to come up in my emotional, energetic body based on my own, So there's been a lot of things of like doing it wrong, doing it right, falling over myself,
yeah.
picking myself back up, getting really, really familiar with my energy waves and my hormones
Yeah.
um, and then just this deep cultivation of a self practice that usually when I'm really that heightened, that either it's probably something really charged or really triggered or a past wound or past trauma. Um, and then most of the time, it's not really that person at
Yeah.
all.
Or that what happened in that moment. It's
Yeah.
yeah, we're carrying forth the stuff that we're working through. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is a really beautiful awareness, and I like this idea that we win some and we learn some.
Yeah, but there's also the other side, which is I also want to share this other
Please.
aspect, which is a lot of times the feminine is picking up on nuances that the male probably isn't picking up on
A
in
hundred.
terms of like how the emotional body is like being shared or whatever. And I do believe there was an aspect of he might have been more conscious had he such and such.
For
But
sure.
I've also come to this place, it's not my place to train them like a dog. It's not my place to like teach a male how to behave. It's not my place to like, again, expect X, Y, and Z. But it is my place to drop the hints or the expressions or the bodily like expressions of my desire and like of what how I how I hold a container for how I want to be respected and how I want to be treated. And so I think that if you ask me of learning, I think one of the biggest takeaways too is that they're not your partner, your male partner's not always going to get it right. But if you show them like you drop some hints along the way, like not even hints, or maybe it's just like that again, that full expression of desire. I mean, if he cares and he's conscious, he's 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 gonna try to do what's right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, I think in the moment, being a guy who's been in these energetic exchanges like this before, again, the collapse comes from oh, I've upset her, I've hurt her. I was imagining all day that we were going to have this connection or all week. And now, we're losing it. And God, like it's just this it comes from, somewhat of an attachment to the outcome and also the idea that to feel connected and to be intimate together, it has to play out a particular way. But actually, you catching yourself in a loving way, removing yourself in a partner accepting that and seeing that and loving you too, like that could be maybe even more intimate and more connecting, even though it was maybe not the encounter we imagined, right? There's still positivity to take from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like I want to say that I really truly believe that a lot of times the feminine is intuiting quite a bit of things in the ethers that the male energy is not picking up on.
1
And
million percent all the time.
yeah, and so then it's an art form, right? It's an art form to communicate that in a way that can be received by the masculine.
Yes.
And
And
so like if you come into these situations, I believe for me, a lot of times I have to process alone to come back. I think everybody processes differently. Like some people can process on the spot. They can like in the moment know exactly what to do. For me, I have to really go in and feel into my soma. I have to go in to understand like what the hell's going on here.
yeah,
But yes, but coming from once I've captured that essence, I think then I can go back or could go back and be vulnerable. Um,
mm,
but a lot of times I've learned when, at least for me, when I'm really confused by these heavy, intense, overwhelming emotions, it's probably not a good time to project that outward
right,
because it's so intense, at least with my energy as a passionate, fiery, like Sag, Sages are known for being very sharp with their tongues. And so I think I've learned for myself anyway that I do best when I can just really process my somatic experience alone so that I can come from an authentic, vulnerable place that's true versus spiteful or angry or saying something that I don't mean or saying something hurtful or just really putting that person under a microscope of what I think they should do, be, or act for me.
right. Paige, that's such a beautiful awareness, and it's a gift that you can bring to relationships because you're able to say, "Hey, here's something about me.
Mhm.
When stuff gets heavy, I might need to pull away." And it's not really about you. And I think, again, when we talk about a relationship where maybe somebody's been living in this kind of neutral stagnation place, for years,
Mhm.
it's scary sometimes. It's threatening sometimes when one or both individuals start to grow and start to do the work because we're so used to it playing out this way. And when it starts to feel different, it's positive, but it can be fear inducing in the moment.
Yeah, and so kind of going back to what we started this like with couples, I'll speak to what happened to me in my marriage. So what I found was that in terms of like that lack of magnetism and polarity, is that we had a lot of undercurrent lost expressions of all these things, appreciation, desire, connection. Like we really like just kind of swallowed it or swept it under a rug or put it in a closet. And then what happened was it was totally depolarizing because then we started what I would call zingers, where I would hear him say something under his breath or dismiss me or devalue me. And then like I would make a smart ass comment back, like, or I would just go bitch to my friends without ever like coming to the relationship. I mean, I remember when I was near the last year before my divorce, and I was talking to my best friend, and she was like, I love you, Paige, but you've been saying the same thing for over a decade now. Because
Mm,
I would go take that energy outside of the marriage and just go and like rip him a new asshole or like, be a bitch about it to everybody else. But then when it came to bringing the stuff to the table, I had no ability or toolkit or wherewithal to know what to do with like all these resentments that were building that they just accumulated until it was just like a breaking point.
mm.
So going back to all the things we said, I think it's really important this art of communication, this art of understanding the triggers, the wounds, the expressions, the unspoken communication to the spoken, to the body language. It's so profound, and yet we take it for granted.
For sure. I think, and for both, even though masculine and feminine energies are, there's a polarity here, there's this dichotomy with them. For both men and women, male and females, or, a couple, same sex in a relationship, wherever energy you tend to align, both benefit from learning the tools,
Mhm.
developing these tactics, cultivating self awareness, cultivating nervous system regulation. And once we learn how to do it for ourselves, then it's so much easier to show up and support a partner in that experience because I'm able to say, oh, I see what's going on with her right now. I know it's really not about me, so I don't have to try to take it on. Even if she's mad at me, I can still try to show up in a more neutral, grounded, present place, which validates her feeling ultimately. Because I'm not trying to defend, excuse, explain, right? Rationalize her out of it. We're letting each other have it.
Yeah, and I think that there's not necessarily within partnerships, like when it does become roommate energy or the magnetism and polarity is lost, I think there's a couple of things that could be happening. One is just that lack of creating that sacred space for each other.
Right.
And then I think there's also on the other side of the coin, sometimes the more intimate you get with somebody, the scarier it becomes because the vulnerability is now like the deepest aspects of yourself are remain hidden. And so to actually go to the next level with that person would be a huge unveiling or revealing of parts of yourself that maybe you're not comfortable with unveiling or revealing.
Yeah. And I think there's people that are in relationships for 20, 30, 40 years who aren't fully honest with each other. You know, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're lying to each other, but it's
Oh, but like, yeah, but like you can reveal parts of yourself to your girlfriends that maybe you would never reveal to your partner. Like for me, when I was married, I remember sitting in bed multiple nights. I'm like, he doesn't even know me. He doesn't even know the thoughts that are in my head, the feelings that I have. Like, it's like I'm a stranger in this bed with this human. And it's because if I had maybe just been okay with revealing all the parts of myself, would they have been embraced? I don't know. It's too far away to know that. But I really felt like, and I feel like this is why this is such beneficial work for partners and couples for like Valentine's weekend, is that if you're feeling like a stranger to your partner, then maybe it is, like I said, the other side of the coin where the most vulnerable aspects of yourself remain hidden.
yeah. And do you think that for you was again part of a fear of just being that open, or these were aspects of yourself you weren't sure that you wanted to fully accept?
I think it goes back to just that nervous system safety.
Hmm.
If there had been certain things in place, then I think it could have transpired. So for the feminine, had I felt cherished, had I felt appreciated, had I felt honored, you know,
Right.
and I didn't have the tools to know how to invite somebody to cherish me, appreciate me, honor me. I didn't until I started going into this work, I didn't have a role model. I mean, it really like I didn't have a role model. So when I got married at 26, 27 years old, it was like getting on a roller coaster ride and not knowing where you were headed or when you were going to drop down that roller coaster into like the abyss, you know? So I really don't know, but what I do know now is that there were definitely aspects of myself that were terrified to be seen.
Hmm.
Um, and I've become so comfortable now as a woman owning who I am. But there was a massive part of me that was terrified of being revealed because I didn't know what judgment um, would uncover if I did, you know. And I I can say confidently now, I don't think that it would have, I think I was on a just truly different wavelength, which is why I ended up ultimately divorced. Um, but I'm so glad that I know, like even let's say you're not married, but you're dating. Um, if you're not able to learn how to be vulnerable, either like you have to cultivate more nervous system safety for yourself, or maybe you're just genuinely not safe in that partnership.
Mm.
That person's not safe for you to really unveil yourself.
Right. And we're definitely not saying those cases exist. There are situations out there that, hey, getting out of the relationship is absolutely the right thing. You know, it's not two partners who are wanting to figure this stuff out and wanting to grow and wanting to work together. And when one person, right, David Snark writes about it in Passionate Marriage, like it's when one person starts to grow, the other person either has to come with them or they try to pull back. They try to put us into the cycles that were familiar and comfortable.
Right. They'll self-sabotage or they'll try to sabotage your progress because it's intimidating or terrifying to them, which is also what I found to be true in my situation. As I was like on a very I went through a period of rapid change.
Yeah.
Like it kicked off with the death of my father. I almost want to cry. Like it was so rapid fire. Like when my father died, it like I was like up against like a new reality and I went through massive change after his death and so yeah, so when you go through a massive shift, it can be very intimidating or terrifying for the other person to the point that they can even act out or be very disrespectful or even harmful to your growth if they're not willing to confront their own
Right.
demons, you know. So um yeah, I mean, but the polarity, the magnetism, um, when we were talking about like people staying in these marriages that are for circumstances. Um, I think it's because of probably that lack of vulnerability. Like people will go have affairs and reveal themselves to another human being, but not to their own partner, you
Right.
know, because for whatever reason, they might feel some level of safety,
Well, in
a
just
false sense of safety within that.
that's what I was gonna say. Like the nature of the affair is it's often more of a physical, sexual connection, which people are tending to show up, the guy more in a masculine, energetic space and the woman more in a feminine space.
Right. I don't know though. I think a lot of women have affairs from the emotional, they're not getting their emotional needs met, so they go seek it in another man.
Right, right. But again, that excitement, the energy, and I think that's why
But there's polarity in that excitement,
that's
right?
exactly that's what I mean. And so it allows there to be this like vulnerability because we're in this space and it's yummy and juicy. And I think that's why the recommendations, for like you need to have a date night, right? And if like the people can be like, all right, I'm gonna get excited for date night, and I'm gonna, the guy's gonna make the plan and structure, and the woman's like, I'm gonna put that dress on I haven't wore, and connect with her feminine. It allows them to start to bring some of that energy back into the dynamic, but they're not necessarily conscious of why it's helping and why it's working. And I think, that's what you and I are passionate about and what we're hoping to do with our Between the Poles workshop is talk to couples and individuals about becoming aware of this energetically and giving them tools and practice and ideas for how to cultivate that more in their relationships. Are you still there? I think I lost Paige. I will say then, because we are about, yeah, we're 30 minutes in. And so we are close to wrapping up. And what I want to say is we are doing a workshop called Between the Poles, and it's going to be the weekend after Valentine's Day. And we're super excited about it. It's going to be a Saturday and a Sunday event. And we've got registration information on Paige's website. We're putting these videos up after the fact on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channels, and all the details will be included in there. So that is stuff that we will continue to share. And Paige is coming back.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah, I
Oh
would.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. I like thought I was plugged in, but I'm back.
That's all right. I was telling everybody, I was like, we're about 30 minutes in. And so I was mentioning the Between the Poles workshop and how we're getting excited about that, and that we are taking these polarity labs and we're reposting them, we're sharing them through our social media. We're going to be here through January leading up to this event, continuing to put out more information, details, allowing people to get registered. And we're super excited to work with people who are passionate about these energetics and passionate about relationships and passionate about personal growth and holistic health in the way that you and I are. This is, we're trying to be part of the change that our society needs.
Yeah, and I believe it doesn't matter if you're alone, you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're married, you're seeking partnership. I believe that this work is pertinent in every realm.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, going back to just real quick the conversation, um, I see this with my kids, and I've talked about this multiple times, like what's polarizing and depolarizing. And like when I go to defend myself lately, like it immediately depolarizes my relationship with my kids. And I've really learned to just not defend lately, like, but to just, so I know that was touching upon one that we did prior, but it can show up in all aspects of your life. And so yeah, it's just like we're just getting these little teasers out there for these conversations.
Yeah.
And I
I
feel like we could do another whole one on this. I feel like there was so much more to unpack, but
Absolutely. Well, and I had an incident yesterday with my daughter, my youngest daughter. We were hanging out, and she made a comment, and immediately I wanted to jump in and say like, I don't know, and I just let it go. I
Mhm.
just sat there. I was like, that's what she thinks right now. That's what's true for her right now. And I took some deep breaths and sat there, and I was like, oh, like I'm learning, I'm growing. I handled,
Yes.
I didn't just immediately respond. And again, so it's not just, yeah, it's not just the romantic relationships. It can play out in our work environments and our extended family dynamics and, with strangers we meet on the street. So
Right. Yep. Well, thanks so much. And yeah, we'll keep doing these and if what we said interests you, just private message us and we'll send out the information for the Polarity Lab the weekend after Valentine's Day.
that's right. And if you've got comments, questions, stuff you want to put under this, under the Facebook Live stuff, or when we repost it, do that. And we'll be excited to talk about stuff that you're interested in for future episodes. So we're going to keep doing the Polarity Lab and then the Between the Poles workshop. And 2026 is going to be great.
2026, we're gonna rock it.
Yes. All right, Paige. We'll talk to
Thank
you
you.
soon. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.